Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Monday, December the 5th. And welcome to our commentary. Just a heads up, we recorded today our podcast with Bill Katz, the editor of Urgent Agenda. And that is up in the inventory of podcast. If you follow me on my blog, it's available right there. If you follow me on Twitter, I just posted it over there as well. Yes, I'm back on Twitter because I see some good things happening over at Twitter. I became very disenchanted with Twitter a couple of years ago and basically pulled out because I felt that it was not a place that I should be hanging around. But I'm glad to see what Elon Musk is doing, and I intend to support him. So I'm posting over at Twitter. So if you're following me over there, I know I'm slowly building up a follower base over there. But if you catch it over at Twitter, you can also listen to my interview with Bill. But one of the things that we talked about, very interesting, was the story of Walt Disney. Walt Disney was born on December the 5th, 1901. He passed away in 1966. And I remember when Walt Disney passed away. It was, I don't know if it was on a Sunday, but I happened to be watching the Disney program on Sunday night, The Wonderful World of Disney. And I remember Dick Van Dyke went on the air. Of course, he had made several movies for the Disney organization. And I remember he went on the air talking about the passing of Walt Disney. Now, I don't know if that was the day that he died or just the first Sunday after he passed away, but I remember Dick Van Dyke talking about the passing of Walt Disney. But anyway, he was born on this day in 1901, went on to create one of the great American companies, the Disney company. I mean, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, these are international superstars. You can go anywhere in the world and they know who Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck are. And I went and had a discussion with Bill. It's on as I'd say, on the podcast about what is happening at Disney and also about Walt Disney and the many things that are happening that were very interesting. So check out the podcast. And we got into the Walt Disney story a little bit. Again, this is a man who built the biggest studio in the world when it came to animation. Now, he did make some movies as well, but certainly when it came to animated movies and stories and cartoons and television shows, nobody did it better than Disney. And from everything that we know, Disney was directly involved in the creation of many of these wonderful shows. The Mickey Mouse, of course, Donald Duck, Pluto, well, you know, the rest of the story. I remember watching those shows when I was growing up, and I'm sure you remember watching them too. And if you have kids like I did at a certain time, 25 years ago or so, they were watching Disney as well. It was really an amazing channel. So we talked a little bit about Walt Disney today on the podcast. Check it out. I think you'll enjoy that. I do want to say congratulations to the U.S. men's soccer team. They made it to the Sweet 16, or at least that's what I call the last 16. Maybe there's a different name for it in the world of football or soccer, whatever you want to call it. But the Sweet 16, of course, are the 16 teams that qualify for the final. And the Americans were defeated by the Netherlands. And I have a post about this coming out tomorrow in which I talk a little bit about what I think the problem is. The problem is they couldn't score. The Americans couldn't score at that level. They did score against Iran, and I think they had another goal. But overall, this was not a team that could score very well. And when you get to that level, you got to have people who can score goals. You just cannot expect to play 0-0 every game. You got to score some goals. And unfortunately, the United States doesn't have that kind of talent right now. Now, we understand that this is a very young team, and hopefully the experience of playing in the Cup will serve them well the next time around. I hope so. The next World Cup, I believe, I'm not sure if it's final yet, but I believe will be in the United States. In fact, our city of Dallas is one of the candidates to host one of the groups, I guess, for the World Cup. So it should be exciting around here. I know that FIFA is desperately trying to get into the U.S. television market. It really hasn't. I mean, the reality is that when the World Cup goes away, there's not that much of a following for soccer in the United States. The professional leagues have enjoyed some success, but probably not as much as they would or they were hoping to. And in this post that I have coming out tomorrow, I make a point that I think one of the things that American players are going to have to do is they're going to have to figure out a way to play in Europe. They got to play at a higher level if they want to be able to compete in the World Cup. They're going to have to play at a higher level. You just cannot pick up that level of talent, if you will, by playing in the United States. Now, a lot of these players, they're real big here in what they call Major League Soccer, the MLS. I think that's what they still call it. But that, you can be very good playing for, FC Dallas, or you can be very good playing for whatever. But that doesn't even scratch the surface of how much better some of these European teams are. And that's where, if you're an American player, that's where you got to get into. That's what you hope to experience 2 or 3 years of European play so that you can be exposed to the better players. It's funny. I was talking to a friend of mine from Argentina, and he tells me that all the great Argentine players and Brazilian players, they all play in Europe. They basically, they play in Europe. And it's not just for the money. Obviously, the money is there, but it's also because that's where the competition is. That's where the competition is. So we're hoping that the American players can move on to a different level of competition and then pick up the kinds of skills that will make them a lot more competitive in the World Cup. Because right now, the Americans are not really much better than what they are, meaning one of the top maybe 20 teams in the world. But there's a big difference between, let's say, number 15 and number 3 or number 4 when you're talking about international competition. And you saw that. I did catch a little bit of the Netherlands-US game. I mean, those two teams are not on the same level. The Netherlands were so much more superior to the Americans. I mean, way more superior to the Americans. And I think that was obvious in every minute of that game. But we still congratulate the Americans for going there, for qualifying for the 16, and we hope that better days are ahead for American soccer. Well, once again, there is a wedding issue at the court. I mean, now apparently there's I don't know where this is. I think it's in Colorado, where there is a same-sex wedding. And a graphic designer said, no, my religious principles do not allow me to do that wedding. And instead of just settling this between people or forgetting about it and then just going out and finding some other graphic designer, they take it to the court, which of course it ends up in the Supreme Court, and all the activists get involved. And then we have a lot of stuff back and forth, and people get very angry, very divisive issues. It's hard for me to believe that this couldn't be settled right there locally between the couple getting married and the graphic designer. I mean, you look for a graphic designer, and the graphic designer says, I think it's a woman in this case, and she says, no, I'm sorry, I cannot do your wedding because my religious principles don't let me do it. That should have been the end of it. The couple looking for a graphic designer should have said, okay, we understand that. Can you recommend somebody? Or thank you very much. We'll go to the internet and we'll find somebody else. I mean, it's just hard for me to believe that everything has to go to the Supreme Court or everything has to go in the courts, because when that happens, this is what you end up with. You end up with activists outside the Supreme Court, and excuse me, if you disagree with them, then they call you a bigot, a homophobe. You get into all this kind of name calling that it doesn't do anybody any good. Again, I don't care if two people want to get married in the same sex, they want to get married. I don't care. Good luck to you. But the idea that you have to take everything to the court is something I don't understand. And if you want to look for a photographer, a graphic designer, somebody to bake your cake, fine, go find somebody. And if somebody tells you my religious principles don't allow me to do that, say, hey, thank you, I respect you, and move on to somebody else. But no, everything becomes a court case. And then, we wonder why people are so angry in the country. Well, we're angry because of stuff like this. Could have been settled right there in the local level without ever having to file any lawsuits or anything like that. Well, if you're following Hillary Clinton, and I don't try to fight Hillary Clinton, but sometimes she gets in the way, as they say. Hillary Clinton was giving a speech or an interview lately, and she made a pretty silly comparison, comparing the pro-life people in the United States to, what is happening to women in Iran or Afghanistan. And it's just absolutely outrageous of Hillary Clinton to make this comparison. I mean, just absolutely outrageous. Because the fact is that the abortion decision in the United States simply said the issue goes back to the states. And ironically, more women today are going to say on abortion policy than before. Roe v. Wade was decided by 7 men. Now abortion policy in the United States is being decided by thousands of women on both sides who are expressing their opinions about abortion through the legislature. So for Hillary Clinton to make a remark like this, it just makes you wonder, what is she thinking? Maybe she's not thinking. Well, I don't know. Sometimes remember the remark about the deplorables? Remember that one? That was pretty nasty as well. You have to wonder, is she running again? Is she running for president again? Probably. That's my guess. I don't think she's going to give up on the presidency after first being defeated by Barack Obama, then being defeated by Donald Trump. I'm sure she would love to have another shot at it, but if she's going to, I hope that she gives up these attacks on pro-life people and frankly talks about things that are more important to bringing the country together. So it's time for Hillary Clinton to just, wise up a little bit and stop being so divisive. Just one more thing here at the end. Again, we remind you of our conversation with Bill Katz. We got into a very good debate about not just what's happening with Twitter and so on, but also in general with issues in the country. And we also talked about Walt Disney, who we remember today was born on December the 5th, 1901, passed away also in December, but in 1966. Thank you for listening, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.